Folks, three, right? Episode three. We're here. We made it. Top of the mountain. We made the trek. Happy to have everybody on board. Fantastic episode this week. I had the pleasure to sit down and talk with Zac Jacobson. Zac is, Zac's a tits. He's a Zac without a K. I'm a Nick without a K. It's just two boys with no Ks, which is how I think it should be. But Zac is an illustrator and graphic designer who is currently working for Harley Davidson. I've been a fan of this man's skills for quite a few years. Love his work. Super happy that we could find the time to connect, and he was gracious to come on the pod and talk everything from, two boys' love affair for art and creativity and family men and dealing with kids. And I don't know, what else can you squish in there, right? We try to do the best we can. I think we delivered. It's entertaining. Hopefully you enjoy it. Can't thank you enough, though, for continuing to watch, listen, however you may be consuming this. And if you're enjoying these pods and these episodes and, this little bit of splish and splash I'm putting out, please remember, like, subscribe, comment, anything at all to trick these algorithms and to thinking that study hall content's, it is itself the tits. So let's keep it rolling and let's jump into my conversation with Zac Jacobson. Complete shit show dealing with them. That was my wife right there making noise in the kitchen. Thanks, Lex. Appreciate it. Well, hey, episode three. Super excited to have Zac join me for this episode. Zac, thank you so much. You're gracious, man. Very, very much. I just dawned on me. You're a Wisco boy, right?
Yep.
Is this an asshole move for me to have a Cubs hat on right now? I just realized about that.
I'm just kind of blurring it out a little bit.
I hadn't even thought about it. And then all of a sudden, because you and I have been talking about Packers stuff for a hot second, I was like, oh, dude, he might be a Brewers fan. I didn't even think about that.
I'm not really a baseball fan. I'll watch the Brewers when they're winning, but
yeah.
Not super passionate about the Brewers.
That's fine. We'll keep it to Bucks and Packers, which I can totally get in line with that. Well, hey man, you and I feel like from a social media perspective, like we'd kind of been, in the know of each other for a little while. I've been a fan of your work for quite a while. I think you, an amazing designer. You have a very poignant and directed style that obviously, with social media, you can see a ton of work, but it's like every time I would see a post in a feed, I could easily be like, oh, that's Zac's. And that was something I always really appreciated the consistency for your craft. And it was always something that was easily identifiable for me.
That's funny you say that because a few years ago, I was kind of telling myself that's kind of what I want to be. I want somebody to look at my work and recognize it for just the style or the content or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like I kind of grew into that a little bit over the last few years. So that's cool to hear.
Well, I mean, it seems like for where your interests lie, and again, I know this from following you from social media, you're working for a top tier company that you could want to be working for, which is right across your hat. I mean, that's got to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, dream job.
Dream job. Has it been, not to put you on the spot, has it been a dream job for you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was too good to be true when the recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn about it. Hey, the vice president of styling and design wants you to apply for this job. And I'm like, all right, I'll look into it. I was pretty content, doing my own thing and being my own and freelancing and was doing that for a few years. They reached out to me right when the pandemic was hitting.
Okay.
And 2 weeks before that, 2 weeks prior, I was talking to my wife. I was like, with us about to have our first baby and this uncertainty with what's going on in the world, I feel like if there's a right opportunity, I would take a full-time job again. I know I talked about never going back to corporate life, only being my own boss, blah, blah, blah. But sure enough, 2 weeks later, I get, reached out to by a recruiter.
Yeah.
So, right. I always have to check it out. I can't just say no automatically or yes right away. So it's always like a curiosity to me. And so I checked it out and it ended up being like, oh, this is like a dream job.
That's awesome. What for people that don't know like what you're doing at Harley, can you describe it just like really quickly?
So I'm a graphic designer in paint and graphics. So I get to design artwork that's on the bike. Um, medallions, logos, and um, different paint schemes. We get to touch, um, the infotainment system. Like we'll design icons for that. Like pretty much anything that's on the bike that needs a graphic or some sort of like type treatment, we get to touch.
Was that a big
So
transition for you? Like, are you working hand in hand with any like the hardware folks? So, like, if let's say you design an emblem and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna put this on the tank" or something like that, are you trying to kind of collab and work hand in hand with them to say like, "Hey, is this easily implemented?" Or like, "How do I maybe adjust this design?" Like, was that a transition for you?
yeah, for sure. It was like I'm so used to just creating flat artwork, and
Yeah,
so I was very nervous about like coming in and being like, all right, how do we make this into a 3D object? Like
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
done this before.
Right.
But they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We have other team members that'll help you out with that, and
Oh, nice.
um, yeah, it's a big collaboration with our team. So like, no one person kind of does one bike. Like it's just always a constant collaboration with our team. So everyone's help like whenever you need help, and we have 3D modelers and engineers and industrial designers, and everyone's you have somebody to help you out with what you need help with.
That's super. A
So
big team. I mean, obviously big org, but big team or pretty small and nimble you're working on.
our design department I think is around 20. It like hovers between like 23 and 29.
Okay. All
So
right.
pretty small, but our like my team in color materials, finishing graphics. Sorry.
Oh, you're good, man.
um,
Cheers.
cheers. So I work on in the color materials, finishes, and graphics,
Right.
CMF and G department, and I think we have 7 people in there.
Okay. So yeah, it's pretty small. I actually I love teams like that. I think it's like a nice thing of having worked in big org, but then also small of just like you get more intimate, you get to know the folks a little bit better. Obviously it's always different, but then it's like when you have more people invested, there's like more hoops to kind of jump through.
Yeah, and we all have our own like strengths and weaknesses, and we all know where each other can help out. So it's really awesome. I love it.
I was gonna ask, so you when you took the gig, are you still freelancing at all? Like, do you have any clients that you're working with, or were you just like 100%? I'm 9 to 5 right now.
The first year and a half, I was doing both.
Okay,
Um,
you're a
Mostly
crazy man.
because we just yeah, I know. Mostly because we just bought a new house. We bought my wife's grandparents' house, and so we've been trying to remodel it, and you know how expensive that stuff is.
Yeah, dude. Well, I feel like you guys have done like a very again just through social media. I catch glimpses of this. You guys have done a very nice job with that.
I've been lucky to have a dad that was a carpenter and builds things for a living. So I just FaceTime him whenever I have a question.
Oh God, I'm jealous of that one. That's got to be nice. All right, so you for year one, you were still taking on clients. Are you at this point? Because I still will see you post work. Obviously, that's not Harley, and I'm always curious. I'm like, is this just for fun, or is like Zach still, like collecting bags other places?
Yeah, it depends. Like we just got a roof done, and we just had a surgery on our dog's leg. So it's like, all right, it would help out if I did some freelance to get some extra cash to pay off some of that stuff. So I'll do it then sometimes, but I'm really trying to get to zero. Like right now, I'm working on Mama Tried motorcycle show stuff, and I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years. I wasn't really planning on saying yes this year just because it's been so hard with 2 kids, and but then they said it was their 10-year anniversary, so it's like, okay, I gotta do it now.
I mean, I would feel like that'd be a hard thing for you to let go of too, because again, you've been invested with that project for quite some time, that show, and all that branding is again amazing. I love all of it. So yeah, I would. My guess would be you probably feel very vested and comfortable in that work for just for how long you've been doing it. So if they came to you and were like, "Hey, we," will you come and do this? That probably, again, it's like a warm blanket. You're like, oh, I know this space. Like this feels good, you know?
The other tough part about it is I didn't work on it the whole entire time of its existence. So Brett Stenson, I don't know if you know who that
I
is.
know, Brett. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's is he in Portland?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I've we have weird like connections that crossed over something like that when I lived there. Yeah.
yeah. So he lived in Milwaukee for a while. Um, he kind of passed the torch on to me from doing the Mama Tried stuff. So I
Uh huh.
kind of had that, can't just like stop doing it. It was like passed on to me, like kind of formally but informally at the same time.
Right.
So I have like kind of a hard time just kind of stopping working on that stuff. And it's also sponsored by Harley, so it's like kind of cool that there's an internal guy kind of doing the show for that.
So I was, the question has popped in my head. So when you were talking about like the team at Harley and everything, and this is something like I always kind of wrestle with. So I'm interested to talk to other designers about this. You're now working with creatives in these other disciplines, right? So from like 3D modeling and from CAD and industrial designers, with like there's always this ever changing landscape for us from tools and skill sets and what is viable versus maybe a little bit like fallen at the wayside. Like, have you had any new like scratches the itch of interest of like, oh, like maybe I'm kind of interested to like dive into that road a little bit, or like have you still been very comfortable of like just working, in the lane that they hired you for?
I think I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at, staying in that lane.
Yeah.
There are like, I know a lot of people around Harley will switch different um, fields within Harley. Like some
Hmm.
people will go from marketing to um, styling. So there's actually a guy that works with us that did that. Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I could see myself maybe doing apparel at some point, but
That'd be cool.
I'm pretty happy where I'm at.
Is it funny that every time I've seen, and you probably have insight to this, I feel like Harley, just from at least the apparel side, has had like a refresh on the brand. So, and because I'll get like targeted ads all the time of like, new shirts or hats. And there had been times because I knew you worked there and I was like, oh, fuck, I wonder if Zach worked on this because this is actually pretty fucking sick. Like,
Going back to like my college days and a little bit outside of my college days, I had two clothing brands that I kind of ran on my own, and that was more of like it's kind of like a learning lesson for me, like trying to figure out like the business side as well as like experimenting creatively. And I wasn't really an illustrator, but I was experimenting with illustration and um, just knowing what I know from like running a brand like that and sewing hang tags on and stuff like that. I think I've always had an interest in apparel and fashion. I don't know what extent I want to take that.
when did you get into illustration then? Was this like a later in life sort of venture?
Yeah, I mean, I took a class at Maya where I went to school. I just felt like kind of the outcast in that illustration class because I felt
Preach,
like I
dude.
didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, imposter syndrome's a big thing, right? Like where you're just like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, it was like these people know how to draw, and like I'm a designer, so like I'll take a lot of reference images and kind of just go from there. But like these people are drawing from their brains. Like, yeah, so it was very tough for me to like take that seriously in college. I saw a lot of like other designers and illustrator like designers that wanted to illustrators or wanted to do both.
Hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, that seems kind of cool. Like maybe I'll try that out and maybe just learn on my own because I got the design thing like kind of under control with school and whatever. And yeah, I just kind of started experimenting with designing T-shirts, being weird with whatever came to my head, and
The only way you
threw
can
it on
be.
a
That's
T-shirt. Hoped and prayed that it would sell.
yeah, yeah. Getting that little hook in you, you were taking the class, you started to kind of like explore becoming, more of an illustrator base. How long would you say then from, let's say that's the start of your journey from that? Like, did this style of yours kind of form? Because again, it's a very distinct style that I always notice your work. So to me, it's a Zach style. So
Kind of thought about this for a while. Like I did some of this stuff when I was doing my clothing brand, but I kind of like that specific style I kind of like put on hold while I took on like full-time jobs. So,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of jobs that I had were like laying out newspaper ads for automotive companies.
Mm.
So it's like, I'm not going to do illustration there. so,
Right.
so I just kind of like touched base on it every now and then. And then when Instagram was a thing, it became easier for me to just be like, oh, there's an excuse for me to like experiment and throw it out there and like keep track of it, like almost like a portfolio, not necessarily like caring about the likes, even though it was cool in the beginning.
How do you
But
not
yeah,
chase the glory, right?
yeah.
Oh, it's even like like the way you do shading for your illustrations, like that's to me of always a very distinct, and you could probably be like, Nick, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but like it's one of those things I noticed with a lot of your work. I can't even think. It's almost like a hatching, but like you have where it's like these like softer edges. But again, it's every time that you could put yours versus like someone trying to imposter that, and via your shading, I'm always like, oh, that's Zach's piece. Like there's intention with it, and it's very consistent, which like I always notice. How maybe you haven't had to wrestle with this, but how have you wrestled with the idea in your head about like you're kind of creating the hits, like the things that maybe you know that people are going to gravitate towards, and it's the it moment right now from like a design aspect versus creating something that's like more authentic to you.
I think a few years ago, I would probably think about like creating something that would get me likes, and it just never felt authentic to me. Like it always felt like almost like a job, like I'm trying to get people to get on my Instagram. Now it's just like whenever I have time in between being a dad and working at Harley, like I'll have time on a Saturday with a cup of coffee and just draw something for my brain and throw it on Instagram because it's kind of just been like this running portfolio of mine. And I kind of like keep it for myself, almost like a camera reel. Like
I like
it's not
that.
necessarily for the other people out there, but it's more so for me. Don't really care about the likes anymore. It's just, something for me to like keep track of. Like I love scrolling through all the way to the beginning of when I had Instagram to see like how my style has progressed and
Yeah.
like see the things that I did then that I won't do now, or maybe I'll come across something that I'm like, oh damn, why don't I try that again? Like that was cool.
Yeah.
I just forgot about doing something like that. It's cool. Like it's the same thing. I every November I create like a 7x7 printed book of like all my work of that year, and I've been doing that for 7 or 8 years now. And it's always so cool to just go back and see where I've come from, and just kind of keep track on like how that style of mine has progressed and like where I can maybe take it, moving forward. Because I don't know, I kind of really like when you're able to like adapt and just kind of grow from like where you've been. Um, I know there's certain like designers and illustrators out there that have one specific style that they can just like go on with for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think something like that bores me a little bit. Like I've
Yeah.
been bored by sticking with one style for a while. So I'm always trying to like figure out what the next thing is within that constraint of my style,
Where did you get
whatever
the
that
idea
is.
for the books? Because I've seen you post these, and I've thought many times, I'm like, why did I never think about this? This is genius.
I think it was probably in school in college.
Yeah.
I think we like made books just as an exercise, and I was like, this would be really cool to just like keep track of all my work because everything's just on hard drives, and it's like I'm not gonna plug in all these hard drives and dig through files to just look at a couple illustrations I did. So I might as well throw it in a book where I can easily access it.
Do you ever have a desire, like again, the book, the tangibleness to it, to make physical goods in anymore? Or are you still? I mean, you're very content of just where the work you're doing right now.
That's kind of another reason why I took on the job at Harley, because it's
Uh huh.
like a lot of the work I was creating was either just like digital or like packaging, for example. Like that stuff you like. rip apart and get the product, and you throw the packaging away, and it's like
Yep.
your work is gone.
Yep. Yeah. Within a split
So
second
that's
of
like,
somebody. Yeah.
so I'm like working at Harley, like I have the opportunity for like, later down in my life, like might be at like a farm and I can dig out like a motorcycle that somebody bought a number of years ago, and there's like the emblem I designed. Like,
Yeah, man.
how cool is that can like last for that long
Yeah.
versus doing something like a snack bag.
Yeah. No, I mean, I talk about this all the time with Lex too. Of I always have the hard thing of, because I'm the same, of where I jump around so much, but sometimes just to steal a term you use, but the snackable art versus like a body of work sort of thing, and like not having a body of work for me, which is my own insecurities with that, but like that hits me heavy sometimes. So I can relate to the fact of that you're like, no, this is physical items that I'm designing that people they can touch, they can feel. I mean, this could carry on for generations. Like that's a beautiful damn thing, dude.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Like, how do you kind of document your work, being so digital?
I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, 3D for me has been relatively new. It's, the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years of just kind of making the push and saying, this is going to be the next thing. And so my challenge has been that of it's great to make a piece, but then a digital piece of art, but like, where does that go? And so I've been looking, and there's a couple ventures of like with 3D printing and stuff like that. But I get just as crazy, and then I tell Lex, I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a potter wheel and put it in the garage, and I'm gonna start making pottery. And she's like, God damn it. She's like, don't be that person. I'm like, I need to I need to physically make something. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was gonna say, I remember following you. I don't remember what it was. I remember a specific image on Instagram where I was like, "Damn, this guy's good."
Oh,
And I
appreciate it,
think
man.
it was like a tiger that was like cut in half, and it was like in a
Uh-huh.
circular badge. And I think you used like uh, a really beautiful color palette that always has stuck with me.
Oh,
I think it was
nice,
like
man.
pink and like the color of your shirt.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, "Damn, that's cool."
I
And that's
actually
the moment I remember following you.
Hey, dude, I'll take it, man. I'll take it. I know what piece you're talking about. I actually remember making that one, so I will
Yeah,
take that, man. Um, well, you touched on being a dad, right? And you and I are both, obviously you're in it deeper than I am, just with experience right now. Harper's older than Joe, but how can you like put words to how that's kind of changed your approach to art, and how what level of art is invested in your life? Because I know for myself, just as an example, I still think about it 24/7, but the moment I hear dad, like everything just goes, okay, we're gonna be where my feet are right now. We're just gonna be present and just do this.
yeah.
So I love like talking with dads and young dads and kind of seeing where their heads at with that.
I'm still kind of like figuring that out. I know definitely taking on less freelance has helped with just being a dad and being a husband and everything. And I still have like the itch to just always experiment and draw or just create in general. Like, even if it's just like patching a wall in the house, like making the house more beautiful, like
Yeah.
just something that like keeps the creative, like creation itch like going. And I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. Like killing two birds with one stone is like starting to draw and collaborate with my daughter.
Hmm.
And so it's like, wow, I get to like scratch that itch, and she gets to have fun and learn.
Yeah.
And yeah, less screen time for her. So it's great. Yeah. So
I like you leaning into the house renovation stuff, because I will sometimes. I mean, there's times that I've had a project at the house, and you know how it is. It could take you a day, it could take you a month, and there are times where then the day ends, and I go, like I'll be griping to Lex, and I'm like, man, I didn't get time in the studio today. She's like, dude, what are you doing, dum dum? Like, you've been busy working your mind in a different way for like the last 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. I kind of always forget about that. And another question I was kind of curious to get your insights on. So again, badass Zach working at Harley, doing his thing, amazing designer. For young kids coming up as designers, what advice would you give someone that's kind of trying to figure out how do I develop a style, how I navigate like landing jobs, whether if that's freelance or if it's getting like a great position at Harley? Like, what advice would you have for like a young designer coming up?
I think the biggest thing I learned from like just going through my career over the last, I don't know, decade or whatever it was, whatever it is just always being open to like learning,
Mm,
always being open about that. I think I generally have gotten more opportunities where I'm like kind of owning up to the fact that I don't know something. That's also kind of opened up the door for like people to be more open with what they know too. So you tend to learn a lot more when you're open to learning. So just owning up to that has always kind of helped me in my career. I think early on, like in college and right out of college, I was like nonstop, just like working and creating and like doing stuff on the side, like
hmm
weekends. I feel like that really helps me like start growing a skill set really quickly compared to some of my other colleagues. Obviously, that starts taking a toll when you start having relationships and kids and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
preach, preach.
doing stuff like that early is like I'm really happy I did that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I always tell young designers, it's to your point of create as often as you can. Yeah, I just get it out there. Just go. Like, don't overthink the end result or where this is going to get me, or just have an idea. Even if it's shit, like just get your mind kind of working in that way. That I think that a bad idea will then kind of leapfrog into a better idea, and then a better idea, and at that point, then hopefully you got something that you're happy with, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we're all individuals. We all have different perspectives based on what we have seen in our lives. So, like, that's why art is so subjective. Like, yeah, not everyone's gonna like it, but somebody's gonna like it because you like it.
Oh, one that I was interested to ask you this as well. So we've talked about again the length of your career. You said 12 plus years that you've been doing this. You still find that you're falling in love with the process. You're falling in love with the way to create. And again, of you being so consistent with your styling, how do you like how if you are so in love with it, how do you keep that fire burning? Because I feel like for a lot of folks, again, they can kind of like it kind of phases out or this and that, or you get itchy fingers to go try something else.
I feel like experiences are the thing that like keeps me going. Like, just traveling and like seeing different signage, or at Harley, we get to travel and check out different bike shows and differences. That honestly just gets me fired up like so quickly. Haven't had a chance to do that much this year just because having a kid, I had
Yeah,
8 weeks off. So.
yeah. I was gonna ask what bike are you riding right now?
I still have my first bike, so I have an Iron 883.
Nice.
Was really hoping to make an upgrade.
Yeah, they're not going to give you a
Um,
street glide or something like that. Come on, they need to at least throw something your way, right?
yeah, there's a few bikes on my radar, but yeah.
What's your Hail Mary, your prize North Star if you're building this bike? What are we looking at now?
Oh my god.
I'm putting you on the spot
Oh,
with this.
I feel like there's multiple bikes that I would want.
I mean, that's fair with it. I mean, I have my low rider, the Softail, which
Yeah.
I love this bike. I'm not going to say that it's like the like the one that always gets me, but I love that fucking bike. So I was just curious if you had to snap of a finger, we're going to give it to you. What's it going to be?
Aside from being just completely custom, I
Yep.
would say I would say either a Lowrider ST with the front
Mm-hmm.
fairing, or the new Livewire Delmar S2.
Oh,
I had my name down for one, and then we had another baby, and I had to pass along my name to somebody else.
I
Those
haven't.
things are fast,
I was going to say I haven't tested one. They're fast as shit.
so fast. I had a smile on my face the entire time. No joke, and I'm not trying to sell you on
Push
a
election.
Harley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I need
but
to I
yeah,
need to like find an Eagle Rider and just go test ride one or something like that. That'd be fun
yeah,
as all
for
get out,
sure.
dude. Yeah. Are you doing any
Yeah.
riding lately with the kids? I mean, I know it's winter right now, but like this past season, were you able to get out much?
Um, Not so much. Just mostly just around here, just cruising around. And the last big trip I went on was a couple of years ago. We, as a team, we drove up to Sturgis.
Nice.
Uh, I got to take a 2020 Road Glide CVO. So I
Nice,
had
dude.
like all the bells and whistles on it, but it
Yeah.
was like going from a Sportster to a big touring bike.
Yeah, dude,
I was
you got a full
so
panel in front
nervous.
of you, man.
Yeah, I made it out alive. We went a little over 2,500 miles there and back and around.
Nice.
So
Sturgis is
and
still that's the one I have not gone to that I need to get my butt over for.
it's a little
I
different than a lot of motorcycle shows and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely worth it.
I need to. I've talked with so Lex's stepdad. He's a big motorcycle rider, but Bill's this guy too. That's like not like unsuspecting motorcycle enthusiast, right? Like doesn't look like a bike guy by any means, but loves motorcycles. And him and I will always talk about of going to these shows. And I'm like, you have a good time, Bill? He's like, oh yeah, yeah. And I'm like, you don't. I don't see you at these shows. You don't seem like the type of person that would. He's like, no, you go look at the bikes. And I'm like, all right, that makes a lot of fucking sense. Like, just go look at go enjoy and look at the bikes. Like, who cares if you're not talking to anybody?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, I'm always curious on this. Music wise, who are you listening to right now? I'm always looking for new music recommendations. What do you got?
Oh man, this morning it was all about the Barbie soundtrack because my daughter just
Ooh,
wanted the Barbie soundtrack.
nice.
The Lizzo song is a banger. I've been really liking. This is I don't know
Put it out there.
the
Come
new
on now.
the not the new Drake album, but the one with
Mm-hmm.
21 Savage. I think it's called like her loss or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything with 21 Savage is so good.
Yeah, I was. It took me a hot second to warm up to 21, and then one of my nephews was like, "Get with it," and I was like, "Okay, you're right.
Mhm.
I'm being an elderly Caucasian right now." Yeah. So, wait, I have one more request for you before we
So,
end this call. I need you to make a Dame Lillard illustration,
oh yeah, I do.
bro.
It's
You
on my list.
You have to do this for me. This is like one because again, your player illustrations I love, and there's sometimes I'll see you just like rocket one of these out after like a Packers game or something or like a Bucks game, and as soon as Dame because living in Portland and I fell in love with Lillard. As soon as he moved over to the Bucks, I was like, can Zach please like just fucking do this for me? Like this is all that I want right now is this illustration.
It's on my list. It's on my list
All
for
right, good
sure.
man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think we did it, man. This was great. I again can't thank you enough for giving me your time and sitting down with me, man. Just bullshitting for a little bit. So
Yeah, I'm happy to finally meet you like kind of in person, face
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
face.
We got to do a bike ride at some point. We literally need to do a
Yeah,
bike ride for sure.
oh,
You're
yeah,
not far. I'm in Indiana. You're in Wisco. Like this is not that far apart. So
perfect. Let's do it.
all right, dude. Well, hey, have a good evening. All the best to you, your little ones, your wife, and yeah, man. Hopefully, talk to you soon.
Likewise.
All right,
Sounds good,
peace,
man.
brother. Yeah, bye.